Huck tries to sit still in a tidy house, but every rule feels like a rope. He dreams of open air and muddy shoes. Widow Douglas insists on clean clothes and gentle manners. She hopes comfort can teach him steadiness. Miss Watson drills lessons and prayers with strict certainty. Huck listens, but his mind wanders. Tom Sawyer whispers of secret adventures and grand vows. He turns ordinary nights into stories. Huck slips out after dark to meet Tom by the fence. Freedom tastes like cool air and silence. Tom invents a secret game with oaths and symbols. Huck grins, half believing the make-believe. Back inside, Huck tries to endure collars and bedtime rules. The clean bed feels too quiet for him. Pap reappears with bitterness and a hungry eye for money. His presence makes Huck feel trapped again. Huck is taken to a lonely cabin and watches the door like a clock. He begins to plan with careful patience. Pap drinks and rants through the night, turning every thought into anger. Huck stays still and waits for a safer moment. When the cabin quiets, Huck gathers food and small tools. He rehearses each step until it feels real. Huck slips away to the river and pushes a canoe into the water. He lets the current carry him out of reach. On a wooded island, Huck builds a hidden camp under low branches. The hush of leaves becomes a kind of shelter. A lantern glow drifts past on the river, and Huck doesn't move a muscle. Being unseen is his best luck. Huck forages and learns which plants feed him and which prick. The island teaches him to pay attention. Jim steps from hiding and asks for secrecy, hoping for freedom. Huck understands the risk in a single look. Huck decides to share the island and keep the secret. For the first time, he feels responsible for more than himself. Jim strengthens the shelter and sets supplies in order. Small routines make the days safer. Huck drags a floating crate onto the sand and searches for useful things. Every find feels like a tiny victory. Jim sorts the supplies and sets aside what matters most. He treats order like protection. Together, they turn logs and rope into a raft. The river becomes their moving home. Huck mends fishing line and listens to the water. Quiet work calms his nerves. Jim watches the stars and speaks of family and hope. Huck hears a dream spoken plainly. Huck decides to go near town in disguise to gather news. He practices a new voice and a new posture. Huck adjusts borrowed clothes and checks his reflection in a mirror shard. He tries to look harmless and ordinary. In a small cabin, Huck answers questions that test his story. He keeps his face steady and his hands still. Huck slips away and hurries back through the brush. He carries news that people are searching the island. Jim readies the raft and secures the rope knots. They choose to move before daylight. At night, Huck paddles while the raft drifts into the current. The river accepts them without questions. Days settle into a rhythm of drifting, fishing, and talking softly. Huck begins to trust the raft more than land. A thick fog swallows the water, and Huck loses his direction. He rows slowly, straining to see. Jim lifts a lantern and turns in place, searching the blank air. The fog makes even familiar sounds feel distant. Huck reaches the raft again and feels shame at how easily fear fooled him. He keeps his apology simple. Jim forgives Huck but explains what loneliness feels like. The words stay with Huck longer than the fog. Huck studies a rough map by a lantern light, hoping to find the right bend in the river. Uncertainty makes him careful. A distant steamboat glow passes on the water. and Huck keeps watch on drifting debris. The river feels unpredictable and loud. Huck steps onto a wrecked steamboat and listens to creaking boards. He takes only what he can carry and leaves quickly. Back on the raft, Huck sets the lantern down with shaking hands. Adventure feels less like play now. A river accident scatters boards and throws Huck into the water. He pulls himself onto the muddy bank, soaked and stunned. Colonel Grangerford welcomes Huck into a grand house with strict courtesy. The polished rooms make Huck feel small. Charlotte arranges a guest room with perfect neatness. The house runs on quiet rules and careful appearances. Huck studies fine wallpaper and a carved banister as if they were museum pieces. He tries to copy polite habits. Emmeline writes poems and keeps a scrapbook of sad notices. Her careful handwriting makes sorrow look tidy. Buck shows Huck a fishing kit and talks like trouble is ordinary. Huck senses that old grudges live close by. Sophia hides a note inside a book and locks her face into calm. Huck realizes secrets can live in plain sight. In an empty church, Colonel Grangerford sits alone with a hymn book. Even quiet places here feel tense. Tension breaks out nearby, and Huck slips away into the trees. He chooses the river over staying in a house full of grudges. Jim keeps the raft hidden in a swampy bend and waits. His patience looks like strength. Huck finds the hidden raft and finally breathes again. Being together makes the world feel manageable. The king appears on the bank with a dramatic story and pleading eyes. Huck senses trouble, but hesitates. The Duke follows, claiming a grand title and wearing confidence like perfume. His smile arrives before his honesty. Huck shifts bundles to make room on the raft. He tells himself he can outsmart whatever they are. Jim covers supplies and watches the newcomers' bags with quiet caution. He stays polite and guarded. The Duke writes bold posters and rehearses big gestures. The raft starts to feel like a traveling stage. The king practices a royal pose in a cracked mirror. He believes audacity is the same as authority. Peter Wilkes signs papers carefully and seals them with wax. His neat desk suggests trust and order in family. Mary Jane grieves and tries to be brave for her sisters. She listens closely to strangers who claim to be kin. Susan keeps busy with sewing and small chores, avoiding her own thoughts. Her quiet steadiness fills the room. Joanna watches the visitors with sharp suspicion and a hard stare. She notices details others overlook. Dr. Robinson studies signatures and finds the story does not match the ink. He chooses truth over comfort. Huck hides the gold where the frauds cannot easily find it. He tells himself it is the first honest thing he has done in days. Mary Jane learns the truth and prepares to leave so she cannot be used. Her dignity holds even while her hands shake. The Duke presses seals onto papers and smooths them with pride. He depends on politeness to cover his flaws. The king counts coins and squeezes the pouch like it can protect him. Greed turns his face tight and anxious. Huck overhears talk about selling Jim and feels sick with guilt. He realizes silence would make him part of it. Huck writes a letter to betray Jim and stares at the page. His hand hovers, then falters. Huck tears the letter and chooses Jim instead. The decision feels simple, only after it is made. Jim thanks Huck quietly and speaks of hope with a steady voice. Huck hears gratitude where he expected distrust. Huck walks a dusty road toward a farmhouse, rehearsing a new lie to survive. He keeps his bundle light. Aunt Sally greets Huck warmly. mistaking him for someone else. Huck steps into the mistake because it is easier than correcting it. Uncle Silas checks a ledger and asks practical questions. Calm scrutiny makes Huck more nervous than anger would. Nat notices unusual errands and keeps his thoughts to himself. He moves carefully through quiet corridors. Tom Sawyer arrives and treats the problem like a storybook adventure. Huck wants a simple plan, but Tom wants drama. Huck measures rope in a barn loft and tries to keep the plan grounded. He worries that cleverness can become a trap. Jim waits in a locked shed and listens to the world outside. Patience becomes his hardest work. Tom writes mysterious notes and seals them like clues in a game. His delight ignores the real stakes. Nat finds odd supplies and decides not to ask questions. Silence becomes his way of staying safe. Aunt Polly arrives with firm clarity and a letter in hand. She untangles the confusion and ends the pretending. Jim steps into open air with relief that looks like calm. The truth changes the mood of everything that follows. Huck chooses the open road over being civilized again. He walks toward the horizon, ready for whatever comes next.